around for questions?
Yep, it's all taken care of. You're live now.
I'm going to wait just a few minutes.
Okay.
All right, everybody, you ready? I didn't mean to talk that loud. All right, we ready to get started? So welcome to the December edition of the Sugar House Community Council monthly meeting. I know there's a lot of new people in the room. I'm Landon Clark, the chair of the council. I'd like to congratulate Sarah Young on her re-election for District 7 councilwoman, and thank Ollie Jones for a good race. And I'd like to also thank the Neighborhood Hive for hosting us again. This has been a great venue for us, so please shop here. We have two cancellations, so we're going to get right to the treasury report. So, Mike?
Hello, thank you, Landon. Hello, everybody. Good to see such a packed house tonight. Very briefly, tonight, not too much activity, but our balance as of this evening, $3,663.93. And thank you, we received a couple donations over the last month. So a $60 donation, and in our PayPal, we have $97.52, thanks to a $100 donation. So thank you, generous donors and community members. And that's what I've got for you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, as is customary, we have a new representative running. I guess you would say that. His name is Jeff Howell. He's going to come introduce himself. He's running for House District
23?
23.
Come on up, Jeff.
Thanks, Landon. It's great to see everyone here. I know everyone's here to talk about the Wells Fargo building, so I'll be short.
Close.
Right here. Here we go. I'll start over. My name is Jeff Howell. As many of you heard, our friend Brian King announced his run for governor, and I've decided to throw my hat in the ring. I live over by Harmon's and the Jollies area, and I believe it's time for a new generation of leaders who listen and who are accessible to the community. I would love to speak with any of you after this meeting. I'll provide you with my cell phone number. So would love to talk to any of you and all of you. I'll stay as long as I can. But I want to introduce myself, and I'm looking forward to get to know everyone. Thanks.
All right, next we're going to hear about the road construction out front of this place. This is Leah Harmia.
Hi, I know I'm your second favorite person here today. I'm Leah Jaramillo. I work as a public engagement consultant for Salt Lake City. I am working on the sewer on 21st South, the 21st South Roadway, and the Highland Drive Roadway project. So I just thought I'd come and give you a very quick update. Is that loud enough? I can probably project, but Highland Drive is on hold until the new year. Please, please, please go support your local businesses all the way down from I-80 all the way to 17 South and beyond. They need your support as we have wrapped one phase of Highland Drive Phase 2 from 21st South to Ramona. So just north of the post office is anticipated to begin around January 8th. If you are a business owner in that area, we will be having a business workshop December 14th. please let me know and I'll be happy to get that information to you. Sewer project is happening right now out in front of us. They are pipe bursting. That means they are pushing a new pipe through the old pipe to get rid of it, make it bigger. What you see in front of you is bypass pumping. So the big pipe that's laying in the road that looks like nobody's doing anything is managing all of the sewer that's happening in this neighborhood. So please avoid it. If you live in this area, there is a way for residents to get in and out on the 21st South, but there is some neighborhood routing. So if you don't live in the neighborhood, please stick to the main road so we don't send lots of traffic through our neighborhoods. We know our neighbors don't like that. They will be moving west towards 1400 through March. Finally, the 21st South roadway reconstruction project is on schedule to advertise this coming January, which means construction could begin as early as March from 13th East moving to the west. That is a 2-season construction project as well. It involves storm drain, sewer, water, the whole roadway, sidewalks, all of it. So there will be a public meeting likely in February to share the final design, let everybody know what's going on. The design has not changed very much from what we've shared with you before. All of those projects have websites with their names: 2100 South Sewer, Highland Drive at slcgov.com, and 21st South. I think just 21st South at slcgov. So please feel free to check those out. We also send out email updates in the Sugar House Community Council newsletter if you have other information.
Can I say something?
please. Yeah.
I appreciate you. I appreciate Bill Knowles, and even these construction guys out here have been awesome to work with. So thank you for your response last Tuesday, and to Bill. So you
We're
guys are
happy
doing
to.
a great job.
Thank you for being so patient. As we know, construction in front of businesses is always difficult. So like Landon said, do some shopping while you're here.
Yeah, cinnamon rolls are amazing. Okay, next we're gonna have the Solid Mayor's Office Liaison, Hannah Bart. We're flying.
Hi, everyone. Oh, that's really loud. Okay. I have a couple of things today, and all of the corresponding flyers are back here on the counter. First, there is a virtual open house happening for Allen Park on December 11th, 2023. It's on Zoom only, but it is still an open house, so you can come and go as you please. It starts at 5:30 p.m. And ends at 7:30 p.m. The public lands planners on that meeting will present the final recommended concept design for Allen Park. So feel free to hop on, learn about the concept design, express your thoughts, feedback, etc. There are little business cards and flyers over there on the counter for that. Next, the mayor's office, we are hosting a warm winter clothing drive for our friends over at Catholic Community Services. We will be accepting donations starting on December 11th through the 15th at the City and County Building, just on the second floor in a donation box. But if any of you have things that you want to donate but don't want to take them to the City and County Building, just text me and I will happily come grab them off your porch. Let's see. In that same vein, a quick homelessness update for you all. Salt Lake County is looking for volunteers for the 2024 point in time count, which is 3 early mornings in January 25th, 26th, and 27th from 4 to 6 a.m. I know, very early, where we get out throughout the county and essentially count everyone experiencing homelessness in the county. This is really important so that the state can have a good grasp on the state of homelessness in Utah, as well as that guarantees a lot of federal funding for the county. So if anyone's interested in volunteering for that, let me know and I can get you the sign-up sheet. It's honestly a very rewarding experience. I've done it a number of times, and it's always just a great experience. So I would recommend that. Additionally, the city, we have a new homelessness website where you can learn about all things homelessness. We know that it's constantly on folks' minds, and we want to try and make sure that information is as easy as access to as possible for all of you. So that's slc.gov/homelessness. You can learn more about the role that the city plays versus the county versus the state, how things are funded, how decisions are made. And then one last quick update. It's December now. It's about to start snowing soon. Just a reminder for everyone that city ordinance is for snow to be removed 24 hours after a storm. Obviously, that's a bit of a gray area if we get multiple storms within a 24-hour period, but please remember to clear your sidewalk. It's an accessibility issue, and it makes our city better when people can walk around safely without worrying about slipping. In that same vein, if you are elderly or have a disability and aren't able to clear your sidewalk, Salt Lake County has a service where you can sign up to be paired with a volunteer to get that snow cleared for you. And similarly, if you are able-bodied or if you have a snowplow, please look out for your neighbors and think about doing a couple other homes around you, just so we can make sure that it's easy to move around our city when it snows. Yeah, does anyone have any questions for me? Yeah.
Will the Allen Park Zoom meeting be recorded?
The question was, will the Allen Park Zoom meeting be recorded? I am not sure. I would have to let you know, but I can get the request to the planners that you want it to be recorded, and see if we can share that
I
with you
can't
guys.
make it that night. so
Okay.
I'd love to- That's the same exact time that our land use committee is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll ask the planners to record it and see if I can get that link to Landon to be on the website.
Thank
Yeah.
Hannah, last time I think you left on time or slightly early and you took all the flyers. Could you just leave them there for us?
Sure.
So that we can actually grab them.
Yes,
Thank you.
I will leave the flyers. Please grab them as long as you're here. Yeah.
Two things. When somebody in the audience asks a question, can the person who's speaking
Repeat.
oh, I
Oh, there we go.
There, okay, that was good.
Yeah,
What is your,
we can handle that. Maybe the phone number, right?
oh, that's
My name's Hannah.
okay, that's what I was wondering. Oh, that's good.
We have it on YouTube. So
Rookies. We'll break them in.
yeah,
Just your name, please.
Hannah Barton from the mayor's office.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions? Great, thanks everyone.
All right, guys, you want to come on up? The Harbor Bay folks, you want to come on up? So I'm just going to reiterate. I'm going to remind people, please behave, be respectful of the next presenters. I know they're here to talk about the process, where they're at in the process. So Sarah Young's going to come up and kind of talk about where she's at, how we're going to comment going forward. This process is a long process, so this is just one night. So.
Thank you. So for those of you I haven't had the opportunity to meet, I'm Sarah Young, City Council Member for District 7. So in regards to the presentation and where we are, I do completely appreciate that I've gotten a lot of emails, as well as some phone calls, and then just some conversations that I've had being in the neighborhood and in passing about this particular project. Things that I want to make sure we're clear about as a community. First and foremost, this is not your only opportunity to give feedback and to ask questions here tonight. City Council has not actually received the completed application, nor has the Planning Commission. So opportunities include, after hearing kind of from these gentlemen this evening and having a chance to ask questions, you will have an opportunity as well to be able to continue to give feedback, not just to these gentlemen, but also to your elected officials. My email and cards will be over here, and I'll be sticking around after the meeting so that you are welcome to come and speak with me directly. You are also welcome to go to the Planning Commission website once the application is posted. And I have those application numbers, even though it's not available yet, that I'm happy to share with you so you can reference the proposal directly. Finally, you are also welcome to communicate with all of City Council through our open public council comments so that you can make sure your voice is heard, not just through me as your representative, but to the other leaders as well. We will be taking this through a normal process where the item is heard before Planning Commission. The Planning Commission will make a recommendation, then it will come to council in a work session. Again, public comment opportunities will be held in an open and public meeting before any action is taken by the council. So I highlight that just to really emphasize that there are multiple opportunities for your voice to be heard. What is great about this room is that we have so many engaged citizens, and I want to make sure that you know you have an opportunity, even if it's not here tonight, this evening in the public forum, to make sure that your feedback is considered. So again, I'll stick around and I have business cards with my contact information, but thank you for being here tonight. I know I invited a lot of folks to come and that we have folks attending online.
I just wanted to say.
You gotta stand up and talk. They'll never hear you.
You forgot the stuff about the Sugar House Land Use Committee.
Correct.
So that's where it goes first.
Yes.
And we write
You
the,
gotta hold it in one spot.
sorry,
Yeah.
we write it, the letter to the planning commission. So, Garrett will show you a link on the screen where you can fill in comments directly online, whether you do it tonight or 2 weeks.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you.
Could we have an update on where the Hawthorne and the other three, there was a hearing last night that I was at?
I can give a quick.
Can you do that?
Yeah, I can
sure.
give a
Let
quick.
me do one thing. So Yvonne has another microphone over here. She'll be passing that out for questions. So that's how we're gonna do it tonight, okay?
So before I turn it over for the presentation, there is a question related to Salt Lake City School District and the public hearing related to the proposed school closures. So there was a meeting last night where they allowed members of the public to be able to come and speak and kind of share their thoughts and feedback related to, there are 4 schools that are being proposed for closure. Here within our district, we had 2 schools under consideration on the greater list of 7 elementary schools. And it has been recommended that Emerson remain open and that Hawthorne be closed and those students redistricted. So to be clear, City Council is not the entity that is making that decision. I will say I did speak at public comment last night. Mainly through the lens of asking the district to consider more resources related to helping our parents understand what options exist for them in terms of open enrollment, in regards to like the process that they have tentatively touched on but haven't detailed. So I was asking for additional space there. We also had council members speak related to one of the school closures for Mary Jackson. Related to that component as
This
well.
is a fait accompli and let's get over with it and we shouldn't be bothered.
So I do know that they took public comment comprehensively. I cannot speak to whether that body is going to make changes to those recommendations. I do know their planned date of action is at their January board meeting. So we should have more outcomes at that point.
There's a couple chairs up here in the front if you guys want to, in the back want to come up. So I'm going to pass the time over to these guys. They'll introduce themselves.
Thank you for having us back. I'm Dan. This is Steve. I head up development and design for our company. And Steve runs government and public relations for our company. It sounds like a big scary job, but he's actually grassroots in the neighborhoods, you know, with having the meetings with folks. And that's the way that we like to work. And I know that maybe the way that information got disseminated over the past week or two was not in the best and most complete package. And so I want to apologize for that. To start, we have 2 processes, right? We have the community process, and then we have kind of the more, what I'll call formal legislative legal process that kind of run parallel paths, and sometimes things jump in front of the other. And you know, the way that we wanted to come to you as a community, we'll come back to you, I should say, is not by an article that was released a little prematurely, but more so we want to be the ones to deliver the message, deliver it accurately, deliver it completely, and then have a really great 2-way dialogue about it. So what you're going to see in the next couple of slides here is what we actually want to start talking about, and not, you know, necessarily as big, scary rumor type buildings that may have been released over the past week or so. So, would you like to add anything? So I will go through the first piece of this relatively quickly, and then I would imagine there'll be plenty to talk about. So we are here to listen. I've got notes. Mark Isaac is in the back taking notes, and so we're going to absorb, we're going to hear, and then we'll be back here multiple times working through the ball of clay, if you will, to try to get, you know, a mutually beneficial win-win for the neighborhood, for us, for you, for businesses, for everybody who truly is a stakeholder here. Because what our mission is not to come in and bastardize your community or this parcel. It's, we go into communities because they already are strong, even if they are changing. They have great assets, they have great bones, and there's a reason that people are drawn to them, us included. And so what we want to do is come in and add to that dynamic. And and make it stronger. So hopefully that resonates. Hopefully we can talk through it. We're just, two guys up here, so happy to have that conversation as we go through. Everybody is quite familiar with the site, I'm sure. So the northwest corner of 21st South and 11th East. Same thing, aerial here. The site is in red, so I guess for a point of clarity, we only own the Wells Fargo building itself and a very small perimeter of that. We do not own the parking lot to the north, nor do we own the small soup kitchen building or the Fiddler's Elbow or any of that. It's just the Wells Fargo. So just as a point of clarity, that's what we're talking about when we have the scope of the project. These are kind of just aerial bird's eye views. We're kind of showing you the property and its relation to obviously the business district, but sort of where it sits in the valley. And again, I think these type of pictures for existing site conditions are very important when we're talking about establishing context of where we are, where we've been, where we want to go. And this building is, the better part of 50 years old. As far as the status of Wells Fargo, they are moving down the street, just about finished with their build out. They will be relocating in the next 3 weeks. They occupy about 80% of this building, and therefore, in about 3 weeks, 80% of this building will be empty. The remaining tenants are leaving in February and March, all but for one who occupies 500 square feet. And so as of March, this building, unfortunately, is going to be completely empty, and not by our choice, of course. We would like to keep those tenants going until we have a formalized plan that is agreed upon and we can move forward with. But that's just the dynamic of folks, seeing new opportunities and understanding developments here. So local context, again, as we move forward, you got a little bit of everything, right? You've got local small business, single story. You've got the mid-rise buildings, the one across the street. Obviously, downtown high-rise is a little bit more robust than some of the 10-story buildings that exist here in the neighborhood. And then, the beauty of the park and the mountains and the trees and the colors certain parts of the year too. So this is the big scary image that I think appeared in the article or two articles. And really what this is there's an iterative process to design, right? And we talk about things that we've heard from you over the past year. Those things have been everything from, shadows to sight lines to activation of ground floor retail to access of vehicles to traffic to parking and all these sorts of things, while also having a program that needs to work economically and financially to make the deal feasible, right? And so what happens is sometimes that goes into a little black box of architecture and design and committees and people working. And then as things get moving, it's not always in its complete and final form before it gets out the door to the powers that be. And so this is a much taller building than what we're going to show you, and it's actually much taller than what we would want or hope to build. But in our architect's mind, this was the best way to accomplish some of those things related to sightlines and shadow minimizations and daytimes and things like that. So again, we've molded the ball of clay a little differently, and here we are a week after the fact trying to catch up. So what is a little bit more literal are some of the things on the right side of the page, predominantly the two right images. I think the middle image is a little bit too futuristic for where we want to go, but with glass and with high quality materials of metal and masonry and plantings, not just at the grade level, but up the building. And we'll talk about activating, the ground floor and some of the things on the main two facades. But what really is, this is us studying the architectural feel and look and aesthetic of the building and the form, not so much, trying to build a tower to the sky. So I don't want to take the left side literally because it's not what we're talking about. What we really are talking about is the direction at which we create the most accessible, dynamic, exciting, walkable, safe, comfortable, and so on, all the adjectives that are positive. Those are the things that we want to bring forward.
May I ask where the other image came from? If it did come from you?
Oh, well, the image was part of a package that was a working package from our architects with our company. So, some of the images were cherry picked and they weren't quite complete is what I was getting at. So that I'm not sure. Honestly, I think once stuff becomes public record because it's submitted, anybody can kind of go on there and grab it. I think
So we were working with our attorneys and we submitted our packet. It's an administrative process. So what we had to do is submit a concept package. So we included it just purely as an image in regards to scale and size and so forth. You know, the intention, as Dan stated, was to come before. We've been working so closely. Oh, thank you. We've been working so closely with the community council. Our intent was not, no, thank you again, was not to be put in a position or put the community in a position to learn this information via the source it was. So purely when we submitted the packet, it was just to start the process. We've been very inclusive in how we approached it thus far, and we want to continue to do so. So we provide that information. We submitted that information and so forth. We take responsibility for it. But as Dan stated, that is not the design that we're anticipating to do. So if we could wait just a few more moments on questions, then we can go through it.
What you see here is just a site plan kind of proposal, and it basically looks at the building from overhead and what the future conditions may be. And really what it is, it's really big picture about how we're treating sidewalks, curbs, planters at the grade floor, where we're putting vehicular entry, how we're addressing the streetscapes, how we're feathering into the new roadways that are being constructed, and you know, the way they're being restriped and where curbs are moving to, and those sorts of things, and accommodating all that in the way that we think about the pedestrian activity in the approach to the building. Because what we want to do is we want to activate the building for pedestrians, right? Routinely when we come to the neighborhood and we have lots of meetings, we do them right across the street at the Wasatch Brewery. And at the moment, when I look out at the Wells Fargo, the corner of that building is nearly in the street. It's set 4 or 5 feet from the corner. And I use this analogy or example a lot, but if someone's pushing a stroller in this direction and walking a dog in this direction, where do you go? How do you maneuver? How does that create the atmosphere and the comfortability level for people to see and be on foot to come to their local business, or to take their dog for a walk, or to push their baby to go get a coffee, that kind of stuff. And those are the types of things that, believe it or not, have huge implications over time when they sit in the existing condition, to where people just don't want to walk there. They don't want to be there because it doesn't feel safe. I'm 2 feet away. I pulled my coworker Sean today away from the street because we're 2 feet away and a bus is coming by and the mirror almost clipped him. And so, to be pedestrian oriented and to diminish traffic, especially traffic cutting through, right? We obviously know that Sugar House is a destination where people from the city and the valley are going to come to. But once they're there, ideally you're encouraging them to do their errands on foot, right? And you're not taking 4 car trips to go park at Nordstrom Rack, swing around the block, go to Chick-fil-A, get back in your car, go to Smith's, get back in your car, go to the bank, right? That's where you get all this additional traffic, because you've got to get here from somewhere. And ideally, that's when you park your car and you go do your thing, and you try to do most of that on foot. But we have to create the environment in which that feels safe, comfortable, and enjoyable. And so that's kind of the basis for where we start on a lot of this stuff, is that ground floor experience. And so this just kind of lays out how the building fits on the site. And I think we've shown these images before in terms of the inspiration for the environment we want to create. And in putting forth legislation, a lot of it also entails this type of requirement, right? So that anybody who even tries to come in and ask for height, whether it's 1 story or 100 stories, they have to work within the framework of providing these types of things as like table stakes for even having a conversation, right? Comfortable greenscapes, wide sidewalks, places to rest, places that have shade, places that engage with the building itself, and active storefronts and transparent glass, so you can see what's going on. You can see the human interaction and people living their lives, right? Because that's eventually what we're talking about here, is how we're living our lives in the place that we spend the most time, right? In the places that we engage with and socialize in. That's what the built environment is, and that's what we can either make better or make worse. And so what we're trying to suggest is that we're taking an approach to make that better and force everybody who comes behind us to do the same. So
That's where it crashes.
yeah, that they'll pull that back up. This is the first time we've shown these sort of colored renderings, and again, conceptual in nature, predominantly for aesthetic, right? And so again, we're looking at different ways to discuss and activate, and I don't remember your name, sir. Chris, when we met with the Land Use and Zoning Committee a few months back, Chris came and kind of gave his ideas, and they were a lot of good ideas, and a lot of them were already kind of in line with great urban design principles and ways to create exciting active uses as opposed to just like, slapping a building up and going vertical and having, parking garages, for example, fronting the most beautiful active streetscapes. And so what we're really talking about is a couple different ways in which we could approach this. And it starts with highly active ground floor uses, whether it's a mix of retail, small shop space, local retail is a big focus, and it's something we want to focus on. And then activating and putting lush greenery up the building so that it has some life to it. And then whether that means residential units that line and hide the parking, right? There's going to have to be parking to some degree. We want to shroud it. We want to cover it with stuff that's nice to look at and that has character to it, and it doesn't just do parking for parking's sake. And so one of the ideas here that we've been working on is this notion of a grid. We've talked about the mass timber structure, which has been out there a little bit in the media and just in the discussions we've had prior. And so mass timber and the way it gets built is on this nice, clean, linear grid. And so one of the ways we might push forward with a design concept is something like this. If you want to go to the next one. Another is something maybe a little bit more not contemporary, but different. Not so much of a grid, but softer edges, and with setbacks, which I know is an important way to make buildings feel less massive as well, but still having active uses. Right, that ground floor looks a lot different than what the ground floor of the building there today is, which is mostly brick. The windows are tinted at the Wells Fargo. You can't really see what's going on. And there's drive aprons in mid-block and things like that. We want to flip that on its head. And again, thinking about people first. And we're showing these with lots of people engaging with the space because that's what we hope to create. And you'll notice they're all on foot. They're all walking around, right? And they're hanging out. And ideally, this corner, as high profile as it is in the neighborhood, it becomes like a community gathering place. And there's ways that we can talk about the dynamic in which we create that.
So when you look at those drawings, the way that we designed this building, it was not from intent just to go big. That was never our intention. That's still not our intention. What we're trying to focus on is really the first floor experience. So what we initially had when we were talking through was the first comment was always, can you find a way to do something that has first floor Utah-based retailers? So we began to look at it from that perspective of how we can make the space walkable and so forth. Then Dan mentioned safety. Safety's been mentioned numerous times. We've experienced it firsthand, but we've also talked to others about it as well. So how do we accomplish that? You set the building back. So as you're setting the building back, you're losing some of your buildable square footage that would be allowable by code. So you then go a little bit vertical based on those changes and those adjustments. And we've also been said, hey, we need public parking. We need some public parking. So as part of that administrative request that we made for the zoning, there's a requirement to provide public parking. As we went through this whole process, when you look at the size of the building, the scale of it, it wasn't designed, nor has it been finally designed based on that. It was really starting from this perspective of what does that first floor experience look like? Because everybody said, hey, we're not going to live in the units. We're going to experience the first floors. We want a sugar house that has people walking through it. We want to create that connectivity that is the heart and what drew us here. And we want to see that continue. We want to support local businesses. So as we began to do this, it really took on a different approach, and something we're applying more so on other projects as well, is how do you design with that pedestrian focused and centric concept? And that's really driven how we've approached it. So when you look at this, and this is the new concept, and I'll turn back.
So what we've taken is obviously feedback and conversations that we've had over many months, both with 2 or 3 trips here, with trips to land use and zoning, with sidebar charrettes, with smaller groups. We know the height is the elephant in the room. And we know that the image with 30 plus stories was not gonna be a starter, nor did we ever really, like Steve was just saying, want to push that high for just going high. It's not why we're doing this. That's not what our approach is. We do know we have a housing shortage in this city, and it's of all types of housing, right? And we're trying to answer on that. We're not there yet, but we can cover that topic as well. And so in doing this, we're actually at 20 to 21 stories, not 30 to 35, right? And so we've chopped. We'll get there. We'll cover that. We've chopped a third of the building off by just again talking through, listening, hearing, and knowing where we have to get to have a feasible project, and also by offering some of the things that we're talking about that we're going to continue to talk about as true benefits to the wider, broader community, as opposed to just the residents living in the building. So, but this is basically just a massing and floor by floor kind of program model of, and some of it looks like it got there's some funkiness going on, but generally you have an L-shaped building that sits on top of that podium where there's parking tucked behind residential units and lots of ground floor retail, active stuff at that level. So, and really, the rest are kind of just conceptual floor plans. We don't necessarily have to go through them if we can. They're just kind of showing you how floor by floor things appear in the building. Sure. So we have a 1-level basement kind of proposed in the scheme. That 1-level basement at the moment is to supply the parking for additional retail, whether it's in our building or on the block. So what we're not suggesting is that this parking is only for our retailers. This parking is for all the retailers. And so that was something that had been talked about and requested. Now, obviously with parking comes cars, and with cars traffic. And so that's obviously another dynamic that as you have more parking for retail, we have to talk through. So that's the basement. And that would be accessed at the moment from our thoughts off the rear alley, which exists, right? That alley is in place right now. That's how you access the Wells Fargo parking lot. Coming off 21st, that's also how you access the parking lot for Fiddlers and for what is now the Locker Room Bar. And so to that end, we're not changing the program on that side. It's still an apron, it's still a turn-in. The rest of the ground floor here, which is shown over my shoulder, all the area in that pale yellow is suggested to be active ground floor retail, whether it's a public market type of use, whether it's something like this, but a little bit broader with a little bit different types of merchandise. Those are types of things, again, as we hear about local retail and character and small business, we want to support that. And so I heard the question, why not 10 stories, right? One of the reasons is in order to support the small business community, in order to cap rents or restrict rents that are affordable and sustainable for businesses to thrive, and not just do well and then go somewhere else, but to do well and continue to grow in place. The way that we do that is we have to spread costs and we have to get revenue elsewhere. And so the way to do it is by adding density and economizing the overall project. And so that's kind of what we said, over and over as we were trying to figure out how many floors, how much space, what shape is the building? Is there a way to make the building shorter, but then it becomes more massive and it's going to be wider? Those sorts of conversations are all things that come into play, and they range from what the architect thinks, which is, you see that, what we think is maybe the best way to start, which is kind of what we're presenting now, and ultimately we'll end up somewhere else, right? Maybe we'll be close to this, but that's kind of what we're proposing. We're stuffing all the ugly stuff, the loading, the trash, the electrical, all that kind of stuff behind on the alley where it's out of sight. Again, as you go up the building, we're trying to hide that parking, right? Nobody wants to stare at parking. Nobody wants to look at parking. But they want to know it exists and they want to know it's there. So along 21st, we're suggesting an outdoor terrace. Maybe it's a restaurant that has outdoor space on the second floor that overlooks the street. but isn't like right next to on top of traffic. And then lining the parking as you go up the podium levels with units that, again, different style of units than you might have in the upper portions of the building, but they serve two purposes. They activate and create an environment where there is activity, eyeballs on the streets periodically, but also, warm light during the evening hours and things like that are far more enjoyable for a sense of place than just the parking lot. So the next few levels kind of follow that same thing. So they're fairly typical. For whatever reason that moved, but that would have been very similar to this on the edge of the lower portion of the building. So apparently when the file got distributed, something got out of whack. So you can go in. Yep. Same thing there. So really you're talking about the first 5 or 6 levels are all kind of mirroring one another. And again, the file seems to be distorted at this point, but you get to your L-shaped tower, which was represented in that colored massing diagram. And for whatever reason, the layers are all out of whack. But we'll circulate this. We'll send a new file that hopefully doesn't have these issues, so that you can look at it, comment on it, review it, tear it to shreds. All that. So that's what we came prepared to talk about. We wanted to first apologize, and then we wanted to listen, obviously, at the second half of this conversation and primarily take in feedback. And I think I have a good idea of where most feedback's coming, but from this audience. But again, we're here to listen. So thank you for listening to us very much.
So when you compile this together in the presentation, can you include the massing model that you're showing in context of the perspective aerial?
Yeah, so it's recorded on YouTube TV, correct?
Yeah, this is currently, it'll be available anytime you want to
Okay,
watch it on
perfect.
YouTube.
Okay.
For that, do you mind just stating your name?
Ken Whedon.
State your full name. You only stated Dan.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. How about your full
My
name?
name's Dan Whalen. 35 years old.
We
I'm
didn't ask for
married.
that. We didn't ask for that.
Making light.
No,
So
it's not funny. None of this is funny.
Did you want me to repeat the question?
yes, please. Sorry.
So I'm Ken Whedon. I live south of I-80, but still in the Sugar House area. In your package, can you include the massing model that you've been presenting from the street view in a perspective aerial so we can see the context of the adjacent buildings with that? It's kind of hard to see the scale and what you're proposing from just the street level.
Yeah, that's a good ask, and we can. So, it'll take a couple days because our architect actually didn't draw that colored thing. I did. So I have to get that to them, and then they can massage it. But we really didn't want to get them going until we at least had an opportunity to hear first feedback and workshop that and put that into the plans. And so, yes, that'll be something that we can circulate hereafter. I don't know if you want to moderate, maybe. Yeah.
Right here.
Oh, Lynn?
Hi, my name is Lynn Schwartz. First of all, what zone are you asking for?
Yeah, CHBS 1 is the current zoning, and we're requesting a change in the height from 105 feet to 305 feet.
So you
the
are,
cha-
so you just
the cha-
lied.
No,
You said you were gonna go 20.
Wait, let him answer.
it's proposed legislation. It has to go through a very long process. So working with our legal counsel, there's no final determination of what the height would or wouldn't be. As part of the process, it ultimately goes to city council where there's a community benefit agreement. So as we were working through it, the document was first focused on sustainability from a standpoint of using mass timber and what can be accomplished with that and the positive impacts of that. And then there was other options. Public parking was a concern as well, so that was incorporated into it. But I want to be very clear on this. This is proposed. This is something that we put forth and something that we anticipated coming to an event such as this. We wish, we're not surprised at the concern about this. We just wish, as Dan stated, would have stepped off on a little bit different of a foot, because from a standpoint of what we're trying to do is as we go through the process is get an understanding of what ultimately is going to work. So from standpoint of the design, it hasn't been done yet because we haven't designed the building yet. And that's the information we're looking for. So I can't say any more true than that.
Okay, so once you get the master plan amendment and zoning change, just for this lot,
Correct.
so spot zoning.
I'm not familiar with that terminology and the way the city treats it. But
Then you could build whatever you want.
no. So that part was also kind of left out of what the articles that were written stated, right? From the beginning, and we have been here many times, and we've met, we've talked about you eating pasta in your living room. We've talked about that, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's
so we're
off the table.
okay. Well, thank you. But my point is, we've been here, we've had discussions, and we actually, believe it or not, are taking feedback and implementing it before we even get started in design in earnest. And so to that question, and to your question about what happens, right? It started in the legislation proposed as 305, but that doesn't mean that, oh, we pull a fast one and all of a sudden the 200 some feet we're showing you, we add 8 floors. In fact, what would actually happen and what we're proposing is that we do the opposite. We reel that number back before we sign the legislation, and we pull that down, right? Right now, it's a working document that helps us work through design, helps us work through programming, and gives room for all the things and all the concerns and all the program and all the wishes for the community, right? So we had to start somewhere. It's a starting.
Okay, no affordable units, I would assume.
We haven't gotten there yet. We haven't. It doesn't mean yes or no.
Seems to be a lot that's very nebulous.
Absolutely.
Hi, my name's Thea Brannon. And I appreciate your attention to sustainability and working with the mass timber and trying to make the street pedestrian experience pleasant. The mass of the building, the height of it is really not appropriate to our environment. It doesn't uphold any of the Sugar House master plan policies. And I wonder if you've actually done the numbers to show that you need 21 stories to enable rents to be cheap enough to have local businesses on the street level, because that is what has been pushed out by the buildings that have been built.
We have begun to dig deep into the numbers, yes, and it was, again, never about adding as many floors as we could add. It was really about how do we get the right number of units in the building that can supplement what you're describing at the lower levels, and possibly there will be affordable units in this building at some level, right? Part of the attached piece that hasn't been drafted yet to this legislation is the proposed community benefits agreement that we would legally sign up to offer as a result of the zoning being accepted, right? And those would be things that we can't, scoot out. Those are legislated. They would kind of be tied into that document, and they would include things like whatever affordability for both retail and or residential, for certain things about the way that the building addresses the street architecturally, the way setbacks occur, the types of uses even that get put in the ground floor, those sorts of things. And what sort of workforce we're bringing to this project, right? Both in the construction period and after, the types of jobs we're creating and putting here in perpetuity, right? Those are things that we have to work out as one of the next steps as we get further along to better assess those numbers.
Hi, Jean Daly. I'm hearing walkability, which this is Utah, not walkability, everybody drives. But taking that aside, maybe I'm misunderstanding your renditions, but from what I saw, 11th Street has no sidewalk. It has cars going, and then it has a pull-in for people to drop off people, and there's no sidewalk. Am I misinterpreting the drawings?
A little, but the drawings aren't also at a level of where they're completely to scale, I would say. And the one page you're referring to for the overhead plan
Yeah.
is still kind of in sketch mode. But what isn't really clear at this point is the building, what we're proposing at that first floor has a big setback that's actually undercover. And so the sidewalk becomes a 15-foot wide covered colonnade, right? To where, businesses can hang a sign and have, patio seating, and they can do those sorts of things. And it's also, a place to rest out of the sun or out of the rain or the snow, whatever the weather is. And so, again, these are design ideas, concepts, and so we're still at like not even the first thing. We're just kind of walking into the batter's box. And so from that standpoint, those types of things are stuff that we want to make more clear as we evolve this.
And just so you know, it's not a walk community. It's not.
Hey, let's go to Emily, and then we'll go to Chris right here. Right there.
I'll just yell. So talking about how it's walkability, you're going to have these parking spots, but how many parking spots do you have to have per residential unit? Half? One?
It depends, because you are. Well, no, I'm going to answer your question. There's a city requirement for a specific amount of space per unit that is lessened if you're within X distance of the track station. This property is.
Yeah.
Our current plan that you saw that we presented there has over 1 per unit.
So you see already on McClellan, all the apartment buildings that are already built, plus however many more are coming, you see all those residents parking on McClellan. How many businesses have gone out on McClellan in the past 3 years? Because there's no parking for residents.
Wow.
Okay, hold on, I want to talk first. And so they're moving into the neighborhoods. They're moving into the business park. You move right across the street from me, and you only have 1 parking spot for every 1,000 square feet of retail space. Where's everyone going to park? If that was her neighborhood height, they would only have to have 3 spots. So if all the residents are parking on the street, then customers can't park there. You're not going to be able to support small businesses there. You aren't. They're not going to be able to survive. Another one, sunlight. There was a study last year at 150 feet. How much sunlight would be taken away from Sugar House Coffee, from Sterling Furniture, all those west-facing residents? They will lose more than 50% of that sunlight at 150 feet. You want 305 feet. What will happen to the birds? What will happen we will have no sunlight. We will only have sunlight 3 hours a day. Okay, and then what else? Passenger drop-off, where you did what she was just talking about, aerial view. That's actually being redone this year, so it's going to be a multi-use thing. You won't be able to pull out. Anything else? Okay. Well, we're not doing it. That's really timber. Timber. I know. No. That's all. What about the timber?
Let's go to Chris right here,
Hi.
and then we'll go back there to Scott.
Chris Longhurst, obviously you've spoken to me before. What are you going to do if the zoning doesn't change? If they cap your building at 105 feet?
I think then there's going to be a pickle, right? Because the project at the moment doesn't work at 105 feet. And what does work at 105 feet is very similar to a lot of the stuff that's already been built, which we've heard over and over you don't like. And the architecture and the materiality and all those things. And they don't actually add dynamic, local-based retail because they have to price that retail space as expensively as they can because they're limited on the amount of space they can build. Right.
But did you consider that coming into this, that there is a possibility that you won't get the zoning that you want?
Yeah, we knew that was a possibility.
Okay.
Hey, Scott, you had your hand up for a while. We'll go back to Scott.
So my name is Scott Carr, and I live in the central commons area of Sugar House, which is very close to where your building is proposed to be built. As people know, we've had a reconfiguration of Highland that has turned into a traffic kind of nightmare because of people, because there's went from 4 lanes to 2. People are parking on the sidewalk, parking all over the place. So it's like a very confusing, hazardous area. That's one thing that's happened with just a reconfiguration of Highland, okay? The main point I want to make is I go between here and Park City. So I've heard this story from you guys many times. Sometimes Park City has been able to head things off of the past, and sometimes they've lost. So if you guys bought that property with the intent that you had to build a 22-story or above building. That means that you don't have any plans to make to work within the zoning of that property to make a building that works for the community. So what you're saying is you can only make something work if you go outside the zoning and you don't have any backup plan for working with the zoning. And then you come off with this like walkability, sustainability, this, that, and everything, setbacks, and baloney essentially, because you're basically putting lipstick on a pig. You look at that building, a 22-story building sitting in the middle of Sugar House with everything else low around it will look out of place. It'll look like, and you know, in cities around the world, in Paris, in Brooklyn, there's been buildings built like that that sit up high and they're an eyesore forever. So what I would encourage the residents of Sugar House is insist that you guys work within the portions of the community and come back with a plan that meets the zoning. Because the zoning was put there for a reason. And a 22-story building, and again, I've been at meetings in Park City where they got basically a city on the hill canceled. You know, everyone knows that story. That was a fight tooth and nail for years, cost the city millions of dollars and everything. They lost a battle on Deer Valley Drive where they took a bunch of historic houses and said that they were going to maintain the historic nature of the buildings and all this, basically essentially what you guys are saying. They are now little condos surrounded, historic house surrounded by condos all around them, or a $7 million mega house. So those people had no intention of maintaining the integrity of that street. They just wanted to get as much money as they could. So I understand where you guys are business people. You have to do this presentation, but 2100 North should be on the list of historic streets because it's a beautiful street. It has a mix of mid-century low Victorian houses, small, cute little businesses that you'd see in Carmel in California or something like that. You build on that corner a skyscraper that looks like something that belongs downtown, you're going to kill the whole neighborhood. That neighborhood has already been damaged severely by all those buildings, the Sugar Mount and all those buildings. And somehow they got through. That alley between the two new buildings is so narrow, and the fire last year, that alley was so narrow and that building was so close to the view that the flames licked across that building and damaged the whole side of that building. So how that got through planning, I mean, that's more narrow than stuff I've seen in Paris. So I would encourage everybody to stand strong against this project.
All right, thanks, Scott.
All right, Yvonne, let's go. Right, raise your hand really high, right there, right in front of you.
Hi, my name is
We'll go to the
Abby.
back.
Pardon me?
Go ahead.
Oh, Abby Minkler, and I live in Highland Park, Sugar House. Along with what he was talking about with the fire last year, huge concern for many of us because the fire department didn't have, the water pressure was not strong enough. The infrastructure in that area would not allow for water pressure to reach the top of that building. And it's not nearly the height that you guys are talking about. That's a huge concern.
Yeah, Mark is taking notes on everything, just so everybody's clear. We got all this data. We're going to take it back. We're obviously recording as well. We're working with the city on utilities across the board, regardless of the size and scale of the building.
Hi, my name is Keith Haney. I'm a resident here in Sugar House. My question for you is regards to your proposal. Do you have a unit count in the current design that you shared with us tonight, and what the average or median cost would be per unit?
We have a unit count. It's just over 400 units, and not necessarily a median yet because we don't have full construction cost data. Things are changing, rates are going up, costs have not come down. So we're studying that. It's ever evolving, and we're hoping to slot in somewhere that we can hopefully talk about at some point soon, but we haven't been that far yet because costs are just still hard to wrangle in. And so once the other impact of this is the design of the building, and certain elements obviously add to that and change that dynamic and influence what we can and can't do with rents.
So I think being a developer myself, I think it would be really helpful if we could all understand what your cost models are per unit as you raise and lower stories, because that's going to impact a lot of what people's perception is here tonight, which is it's too tall, it's got all these myriad of problems. We need to understand more about what your proposal is before we can really make concrete decisions to move forward.
Sure, thank you.
Hello, my name is Devin Zander. I was born in the Sugar House area. I still live here. I'm probably one of the few renters in this room. I am somebody who uses the S line every day to commute to and from work. Not a ton of people do that because there are not a ton of housing options that have been completed yet. Personally, I think we spent millions of dollars on this S-Line project. If we want to get the most bang for our buck, I know you shouldn't say that necessarily, but I think it's a good idea to allow this project to proceed. And I think that welcoming more neighbors in the Sugar House area to support the local businesses that are here and have more residents within walking distance of these local businesses would be great for them. And I think that we should see maybe more of this sustainability district in the Sugar House Business District and perhaps elsewhere in the city. It's a great idea. Thanks.
Thank you.
She's got it. And then we'll go to Eric.
Hi, my name is Laurie Bray, and I have had a business in Sugar House since 2006. It's on Monument Plaza. I got to watch the whole old Sugar House be torn down. Literally, I mean, the backhoe was this close to me. I took pictures of everything. I mean, that was devastating for 5 years for the community, and the construction's been really tough on us. I am all for walkability. I mean, I walk everywhere in Sugar House. I ride my bike in Sugar House. But I have to tell you, there's a reason all those businesses on McClellan haven't made it. And one of it is the high rent. And because I have lots of customers, I'm a photographer, who don't live in Sugar House, and they cannot walk. They have to drive here, and they have to park somewhere. And they just tell me now, I don't come to Sugar House anymore. I don't like driving around the streets. I don't like all the construction. I can't find a parking place. And Pizza Volta that was on Monument Plaza, that didn't work for a reason too. Granted, the rent was really high, but in the middle of the block there, people were not educated yet to park far away and walk in Sugar House. It's going to take decades to do that. And I feel like this construction project, first of all, just having the project is going to be really tough on the community again, especially the most charming street left in Sugar House, which is north of 2100 South. I run the Sugar House Art Walk, and all those cute little stores are part of the Sugar House Art Walk. And yeah, a lot of times people won't come because there's too much construction in the area. And perception is everything. I know there's going to be something built there. I hope it's beautiful, but I think the height will just devastate the community. There will be no more charm left in it. I mean, look at Park City. Why does it work? It's not because there's brand new buildings that are high rises. People don't come to see that. They come to see local art and charm. So it needs some adjustment, in my opinion.
Thank you. Thanks to everybody. Eric McGill, resident of Sugar House. I was hoping is Nick Norris here? No, or Noe from planning, the planner for this project hasn't been assigned yet. So we should, as a community, verify that those public benefits by law need to be held up in a zone change? Because I'm not 100% sure of that. If these entitlements are given, the zone change is given on that property, and these gentlemen decide to resell it, we may be in for this whole thing redo. So the Sugar House master plan, though, and the hype associated with that was a big, and Judy is the historian of that process. Even at the time of its adoption, it went through a public process, and the buildings were going to be capped at 80 feet. And if I remember correct, right, Judy, at the last kind of minute, the last city council meeting, they bumped that to 104 feet, whatever the current height is. So at that time, years ago, we gave up 20 feet right there. But that is the master guiding plan, the master document plan for our community. So I think you've seen here from the community, please, as out-of-staters coming in wanting to do this project, and it's a shame, Mark Isaac, who's done such a wonderful job working with the community council on different parcels as they've come up, designing projects that will fit within our master plan in our community, that we're getting hit with this, and that's what you're hearing. So we encourage you to come back with something that's workable, doable, but fits in with our current zoning and our master plan. I think that's what, for the most part, you're hearing from the community. So if you want something that works for the community, give us something that works for our community and our master plans.
Or sell the lot.
Can I ask a question? We gotta do this right here. Yeah, you can ask.
I guess the question I have is, and it doesn't have to be answered today, of course. It's more of a high level, ongoing question. When you say a project that will benefit or do something for the community, like what does that entail, right? And almost like close your eyes, whether it's 3 stories or 5 or 10, whatever, right? What does that look like, and what does that have in it? And again, I know that there's probably 50 different answers to that, and again, I'm not looking for like an immediate. It's more of a, how do you contextualize that? Because
we live in a capitalist free market society, so and you guys are the businessmen, you know what housing prices are going for, commercial leasing spaces, office spaces. Right. But tonight we're talking about concepts of the actual building, the brick and mortar, or the wood framing, whatever you're talking about. That would be another thing, is the real tangible benefits wouldn't, from a sustainability standpoint, be a LEED certified building that would actually reduce our carbon footprint, not just timber that you're shipping down from Canada. I mean, I'd love to see the numbers on how that, from a sustainability, how that actually affects our local sustainability. A 6 or 15 foot wide sidewalk that 100 feet later bottlenecks back down 4 feet. Does that really help, 100 or 200 foot long section? Is that really a community benefit? So, but we're talking about your plan. So the uses of the building, we all know what they basically look like, because they're getting popped up all over the place. Ground level, and you're constrained again by zoning. Ground level activation, you need some kind of commercial or activation there, and then housing or office up top. I mean, we're not that, so that's what, it's all on the master plan. So let that be your guiding document. Go ahead, Chris.
Hi, my name is Chris Brockert. I've lived in Sugar House for 11 years. I lived in Utah for 54 years. I'm an Iraq War veteran. I served in 2003, and I got a VA loan for my house in Sugar House. And I just want to say I'm totally against this. It seems like the developers are just tearing the guts out of Sugar House. When I first moved here, I used to take my truck to JT Automotive and have it worked on, and they were forced out. He didn't feel like JT didn't feel like he was being forced out, but his wife felt that he was. I used to take my bike to Fisher Cyclery and have my mountain bike worked on. They're gone. I used to take my truck to Midas, on 21st to have the brakes worked on, and they were forced to move. I used to do my biking, my banking at the bank that you guys are taking over, and now they're going. There used to be a small bar on Highland, the smallest bar in America, and now that's gone. So slowly, piece by piece, it's all Sugar House is being dismantled, And, that you want to, build a 21-story building. That's only 7 stories shorter than the LDS office building downtown. And I thought it was, 19 stories, but I was informed tonight that, the change in the building code will allow you to build a 30-story building. That would be 2 stories taller than the LDS office building downtown. And Sugar House is a small township. It has a certain feel to it. That's why people, and a charm. That's why people love Sugar House so much. And you want to make it more like downtown Salt Lake City. And downtown Salt Lake City is so horrible. The traffic and the parking and how long it takes the street lights to change. It's just miserable. That even though I've lived here for so long, in the past 20 years, I've only gone to downtown Salt Lake City once. It's absolutely horrible. And you guys want to make downtown Sugar House just like downtown Salt Lake. And if you change the building code, it doesn't just apply to you. Other people will be able to build up to 30-story tall buildings. And something, I've been through this before. About 6 years ago, a building developer like you wanted to change the building height limit, across from my, the house where I live, and build a 3-story tall building, and it was for a restaurant. Well, after they had the building code changed, they ended up not building the restaurant. They ended up building an apartment complex across the street from my house, which has a 6-foot, my house has a 6-foot fence, has privacy in the backyard with a jacuzzi. Now I have an apartment where I'll have dozens of people be able to look down into my backyard. I've completely lost my privacy. So just because you guys say you want to build a 21-story building, building developers, almost always change their plans. This change in the building code will allow you to build a 30-story tall building, and that's taller than, like I said, the office building downtown. So I'm totally against this, and I feel that people in Sugar House should fight against this.
Avon.
We'll
go to the guy in the green back there. Raise your hand for me.
All the way to the back.
Hi, my name is Jeff, and I live in Sugar House, Jeff Doran. Many mixed emotions, mostly negative. It's not a dig at you guys. I get it. You're developers. Our city is growing. Our state is, in the next 20 years, going to double from where we're at. Sugar House can't even handle pushing water, let alone poop, through its own neighborhood right now with the growth. I mean, I think the tallest building, I don't know, you guys probably have a better number on this, but 5 years ago, maybe the tallest building was 6 or 7 stories, maybe. And I think we're pissing and moaning about a 10 or 12-story building going where 24-hour fitness used to be, and they're just happening. So I just think it's irresponsible, and it's not what anybody wants. That height, I get it. Growth is going to happen. I am 10,000% for walkability. I come from a bigger city where I wish I could walk to places, but I've also lived here 30 years and I'm used to it now. I get it. Growth is going to happen, but just do something that's going to keep the neighborhood somewhat intimate. If I have an opportunity to come down and walk around, I'll take it. If there's less parking, I'll come walk down. I get it. But if there's anything you guys can do, 20 is not even close to a height that I don't think anybody would want around here. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Monica, and I've been a resident in Sugar House for about 31 years. I've heard the word traffic mentioned. I think that's one of my concerns. It's Sugar House on 21st South is already a pretty busy street, and we've been constricted down to 1 lane because of construction, 1 lane each way, and it's been painful. I don't think this building fits Sugar House. Your dream of the 400 units is just, I can't even fathom the people that live there plus their guests, and how that traffic's going to move through 21st South. I hear walkability, and that means buses, etc. And when you're behind a bus and you're constricted down to the 1 lane, it's very frustrating. Your architect's rendition, it was a blueprint aerial view, looked like the accuracy of, it looked like 11th East was accurate in it is a 2-lane road. And then the 21st South road that was depicted it looked like a 2-lane road, like whereas now it is 4 lanes, 2 each direction. It looked like it was depicted 1 lane each way with a turn lane in the middle. So I hear walkability, and I fear someday we will be constricted with a road diet. And then my last concern is this will set a precedence for other large buildings in the future. Thank you for your.
We already have road diet on Highland.
Bernie,
You can see the new
Bernie, raise your
construction.
hand back. We'll go right there, Yvonne. Yeah.
Tough for an old man to get up. Thank you. I'm glad I live in Sugar House. This is amazing. Salt Lake City now, over the last number of years, have built apartments everywhere. And there was no oversight, or there was supposed to be oversight. That never happened. It was just build, build, build. Now the cost of those apartments, they're giving the apartments away and open them up for a month free rent because they can't fill up the apartments. And if you look everywhere, there's leasing signs everywhere. And so when a developer comes into the city and says they want to do something, I think the city should ask, or the resident should ask, what's this all about? And stay on top of the planning commission, because the planning commission and the city planners have not done a good job of long-range planning when it comes to housing. So I would not, I hate to say that because there's a lot of good people working for the city, but I would remain skeptical about anything that comes from the mouths of anybody that wants to build a property in Salt Lake City. And I would remain somewhat skeptical of the planning departments in Salt Lake City. And just the skepticism and coming together like this, I think could accomplish a lot and set a model for how the community can start taking control of what happens within the community. So not so much a question, but I just want to thank my neighbors for being here.
Thank you.
My name is Linda. I've owned my home for 30 years. I love living in Sugar House. You know, when I was young, every countries, I grew up in Cottonwood. I grew up in Cottonwood when my parents would bring me to Sugar House at Christmas, going to Southeast Furniture, seeing the Christmas windows, going to New Crisp popcorn, eating popcorn. I have wonderful memories of Sugar House. And imagine it was time to buy a home, and I could buy my home in Sugar House. To this day, whenever I tell people I have a home in Sugar House, people are envious. I get to live in Sugar House. I work downtown, just a block away from the Astor Building. And many of you may know it's going to be the tallest building in Utah, 43 stories. It's a beautiful building. It's going to be beautiful downtown. When I heard about the new building in Sugar House, I thought that building isn't going to belong in Sugar House. Sugar House is a very charming neighborhood. Even with all the new construction, I hear lots of people who are not from Sugar House complain about the construction in Sugar House. I'm okay with it. I can deal with it. I know Sugar House backwards, upside down. I know how to get around Sugar House. I like what's happening. I think it is walkable. I'm a cyclist. I can bike through it. I love Sugar House. I'm like the guy in the green. He's my good friend and neighbor. I like what's happening. I wanted to stay the charming city township that it is. I like you guys. I appreciate you coming to talk to us, but your building doesn't belong in Sugar House.
Hi, my name is Brenda Schultz. I have new. My name is Brenda Schultz. I have lived one block northwest from your building site for the last 30 years. We've been here before. This Urbanian 11 it's a repeat. With all due respect, I don't believe a word any of you say about your building and about what you envision for Sugar House. What I have found, and even is no matter what, you guys push the envelope. You ask for a little and you take as much as you can, and you usually get what you want. That being said, I am imploring the city council to please give Sugar House a break. Give us a break. I mean, we pushed back for some of these buildings at the beginning, and so far we've been pretty good at maintaining a level of decency with what has become Sugar House right now. Give us a break. Look, small businesses have left. How many small businesses in Sugar House are gone because they can't afford the rent? Now we have franchises and businesses that aren't even from here. Cockers, the Free Speech building, the coffee house on the corner, Blue Boutique. I mean, it was just such a great, I understand growth, and I get that. But give us a break, you guys. The more construction you keep doing in Sugar House, it is going to take forever to get it back.
My name is Richard Lehman. I'm not going to talk about the building because there are plenty of opportunities further along in the process to give substantive comments versus this meeting. But I do want to make a point about sustainable mobility. Based on what Lori Brace said and Devin Zander and others, there's no question Utah is the epitome of sprawl. I had the benefit of living in a city for 32 years. It's 3.5 times bigger than Salt Lake, where I didn't own a car. And I traveled by bicycle and transit for 30 years. There's a tremendous opportunity with Sugar House, irrespective of this discussion, to create a transportation management district, to create the concept of shared parking across all the commercial properties, to support biking and walking and transit way better, and even to have a system of small electric shuttles, which are present in many other cities now, mostly in warmer places, but still the circuit company does them, where you could move people to and from the district without them driving. And few cities do that kind of subtle transportation management planning, but there is a tremendous opportunity here to do it in Sugar House because of the density of the town center and the proximity of the residential properties. And it pains me to hear people being so enthralled to the car. You have no idea what prisoners you are. The only reason I drive now is I have health problems. But again, I biked for 30 years. I biked until I was 62. And if my doctors are good, I'll continue to bike after. So people really need to think about, again, irrespective of this building, the opportunity, the density, the S-line, the bus service, the proximity of tracks, and even ideally with the Olympics, maybe we could get another tracks line down 700 East. there are tremendous opportunities to free yourself from the car.
Hey, Yvonne.
Hello. Oh, hi, my name is Rich Knickerbocker. My wife and I moved to Sugar House 10 years ago from the Avenues. During the time we've been here, there has been constant construction. We walk a lot, and we're always ducking cranes and trucks loaded with all kinds of shit, or stuff. And not to mention the road work and everything else we see. I have a question for you, and that is, assuming you could possibly, I'm sorry to say it that way, assuming you could get this project approved as you'd like to get it approved, how long do you think it would possibly take on that major intersection, Sugar House, to get this thing built?
Good question. And actually, one of the things that we talked about in the early part of the year as we started kind of discussing the idea of a project here was trying to weave our project in with the roadway reconstruction, right? So that we weren't adding to a longer duration of disruption thereafter, right? So that was one of the reasons that we started having this dialogue a while back, and now we're here with at least the early stages of a proposed, structure. But to answer the question, I don't know if it's 12 or 24 months. It depends on where the scale is. But what we would hope is that we could commence it in tandem with what's going to happen on 21st South and be part of that and fold into the exact same timeline so that we're not duplicating efforts. We have, like I mentioned, the Wells Fargo building is on the verge of being empty. And we know that has other concerns that come with it if it sits like that for too long. And so, we're trying to actively, again, be good stewards of the real estate, but also, work as partners. We're stakeholders. We're going to end up being here for a while. So I think it's important that we collaborate on that. And one of the ways at the front end that we could do that in good faith is trying to do this at the same time that roadway is happening so that we're not chasing the end of that.
So how long will it take before you complete construction?
Somewhere in that window that I just gave. I don't have a exact time frame. I will say with mass timber, the speed of construction goes much faster. It's much quieter. There's less deliveries. There's less noise. There's less disruption overall. And that's, again, documentation that we can supply to back up that statement, because it's not just hot air coming out of my mouth. It's true. We built a project at Cleveland's, again, most historic, busiest, most charming corner. I hate to say that word, but it's true. It's kind of a spitting image in a lot of ways with historic, really great assets and high transit use. And it was very important to that community the same way. And that's a community where I'm from, that we did those things and that we were not as disruptive as the projects down the block, and that we weren't these huge gargantuan project that didn't fit in the scale. Now eventually we built a project that was much bigger than everybody had originally thought. But now that it's built, everyone in that community would tell you that we did it the right way and that they actually enjoy what we deliver.
My name's Nancy Day, and I've lived in Sugar House for my full 81 years. And I remember the days when I could walk down from about 15th East down 21st South to the Marlowe Theater and the Southeast Furniture Department area, and to see the Christmas lights at Christmas time, and to go into Keith O'Brien's. And I miss those days. But I'm here at this moment. My 2 cents at this time is to speak on behalf of those who can no longer be pedestrians. We don't get on bicycles. We don't have trolleys or buses that come anywhere near where I'm living so that I can't connect to the S line or anywhere else. I have to use my car. And I speak in behalf of those people who can't walk. And even the project that's going along 13th East and along Highland Drive is to support bicyclists and pedestrians, all of which I have no
hope of being abused in that way. And I, for one, do not like what you're doing to my 11th East and 21st here.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Giri. I'm a resident of Sugar House, been for 12 years. First, thanks for hearing the community's feedback. I know it's pretty harsh to hear, so you're doing a good job listening to it. So I have 3 points. First one is when you say it has to have so many stories to make the business model work, that has to do with profit margins, right? How much is your profit margin? Is it like crazy 90%? Or can you reduce your margin lower to put fewer stories in there that fits in the community and you gel with us rather than trying to make a huge profit and fight the community, right? So that's one. Second one, I just want to make this comment that Sugar House 21st South, Highland Drive, 900 East, all of this is already very inaccessible to kids and older people, right? There's so much traffic. I have 2 young kids. They are scared to walk on these streets, right? You know, the Sugar House Library is just across from your lot. A lot of people go there. My kids go to Hidden Hollow, right? Now they're not able to walk there. Now I have to drive them there, right? When you put 400 units more and there are more cars there, there's only going to be more traffic, right? So that's something that we don't think about as young people. From 20 to 40, we're very accessible. We can fight the traffic. But young kids and older people cannot. And most of my neighbors are older folk that have lived most of their lives in Sugar House. And we've made 21st South and Highland Drive inaccessible to them already, right? So this would only worsen that situation. And the last thing is if you do get approval and rezone it, my plea is at least spare the trees, right? How many trees are we cutting? At least put a sustainable concrete, LEED certified solar panel building. Don't cut so many trees.
Hi, my name is Debbie Mayo. I've lived in Sugar House now for about 22 years. I just want to say that the reality of our community is that people drive, people rely on their cars. Yeah, maybe we're not supposed to, but it is the reality. If you bring in a building with 400 units, that's going to be at least 400 more people moving in, potentially 800 if it's couples. They're going to have 1 to 2 cars per unit. Right now, we don't have the infrastructure to deal with that number of new cars coming in. You talk about it being a walkable community, okay, that's fine for when you're talking about your free time, your weekends, you're going to the store to get your groceries or whatever. But Sugar House does not have the businesses and the offices and whatever to employ these 400 to 800 people. They're going to have to get into their vehicles in order to get to work. Rush hour is going to become an absolute freaking nightmare through Sugar House if you add this number of cars into our community. It's bad enough right now. So I think you need to face the reality. You can say make it walkable, but the reality is that we can't be a completely walkable community. It's not the way the Sugar House and Salt Lake have been built. My other question is, where is Harbor Bay from? Where are they located?
Our group has an office in Chicago and an office in Cleveland.
Okay, terrific. So if you look at Salt Lake City and you look at Sugar House in particular, it doesn't look anything like Cleveland. It doesn't look anything like Chicago. And I really resent that you're trying to make us into Cleveland or Chicago. It's not going to fit in here. And I'm really very opposed to this building for way too many reasons. Thanks.
Thanks. Yvonne, right here to Derek. There's an online question on YouTube.
This is from Dana McKee.
Right, my neighbor.
We're backing up about 45 minutes ago. She would like clarification on the word legislation. If the city shoots you down, will you just bypass the city, go straight to the legislature like what did happen in Park City in the past?
No, when I said legislation, I was speaking about the zoning. So I was speaking about the local municipality, not anything about the city or the state level or anything of that nature.
I think she's also wondering, would you be willing to go to that level if you don't get what you want from the city?
Our approach has always been to try to do a collaborative approach, right, and not force anything and not steamroll anything. That's kind of why we've done this very softly. Even when we were back here in the spring, people were like, show us what you're doing. Show us. We weren't there. We were listening and doing some talking, but listening. We were doing some listening, and we were trying to come back with something that was a starting point for where we could go and where we could work from. And so, to that end, the only thing I could say is we're here to be stewards and neighbors. We're not here to be anything else but that.
Thank you. Our online folks are also looking for some clarification on rentals or owned units.
These at the moment are assumed to be rentals. It's extremely difficult, if not impossible. And I've seen the question posted on many times, why not condominiums, right? There's just not a bank willing to finance condominiums, certainly in the environment we're in, but that's the reason that you haven't seen larger buildings built that are for sale in mass, is because they're just not financeable, and that's the reason. So we know the statistics. We know that Salt Lake has a 38% higher cost of housing, of for sale housing, than the national average, as a result specifically of the last 5 to 7 years with the growth that's happened and the lack of new building and construction. So one thing that happens is renting does become more affordable. And to your statement earlier, we're not trying to suggest that everyone should walk everywhere and that's the only way that works, right? But the reason that density works in locations that already have great assets, that already have grocery, right? This example of this neighborhood has not one, not two, it has multiple grocery stores, right? So where you have a choice and you can leave your front door if you wanted to on foot and go get groceries and go get a coffee, and you could sit down and do some work there if you chose, and you could walk to the store and you could go have a beer at lunch at Wasatch or at Hopkins, and those are choices, right? There, it's the optionality more so than only walking, right? And what that does is it decreases car trips. And so we study our building that has 300 units in Cleveland. There's over 420 residents, and the trips per day is actually less than 1/2 per unit. So we see less than 200 trips per day. And what I'm calling a trip is leaving the garage once and coming back once. That's one trip. And so what we see is the people want to live in that location because of what's already there. And so, as I mentioned before, it's not that we're trying to force anybody to do anything, to walk or to drive. It's the optionality of doing either taking the bus, hopping on a bike, of catching an Uber, those sorts of things. It's the options of that in the end, even though there's density, they don't actually add as much traffic or as trips and vehicular travel from coming to and from the building itself as you would think.
Okay, we'll get to a couple more questions, but we want to talk about what's the process going forward. We got to save some time for that. Okay, so we'll go to the one in the green, the lady in the blue back there, and you haven't asked a question yet either, right? So then you can go, and then we'll move on from there. Right behind you.
Hi, my name is Juliana Braun. I live on East Hollywood Avenue, right behind the Wells Fargo building. I'm deeply concerned and do not agree with this proposal. I can very easily see property values going lower. Somebody already mentioned the shadows, the lack of light. As Salt Lake stands, I'm a transplant from Boston and a cyclist. This is not a city that does cycling, that does pedestrian well at all. The sidewalks are very narrow and limited. I have been terrified walking across the street to Smith's or to try to get to Whole Foods, because people here in Utah are horrible drivers. Yeah. And I'm saying that as a reckless Bostonian. We may be reckless, but we know what we're doing and we're aware. There's a difference of being so damn clueless that people do not stop for stop signs. I live in front of the roundabout at specifically 1000 in East Hollywood. The number of times cars smash into that very tall object is innumerable. So when you're trying to sell this idea that this will help bring walkability, that's not realistic, as other people have pointed out. That's not part of this culture, the culture of Utah. It's not part of the American culture. The soul of America is the automobile and personal freedom. So this city is growing, we all know that. Adding something that potentially has 400 units, which really would not be affordable, would easily bring 800 to 1,000 people. And with all the other apartment complexes that are getting shoved into Sugar House, it's not gonna make it the place that we know and the place that brought us here, which was a charming small town feel.
Right over here to the right.
Thank you for your time, gentlemen. I think just a couple of points I want to make real quick would be obviously, you're in business, to be profitable. Whenever any one of us goes to work every day from 9 to 5, we're trying to make money for ourselves. So I don't begrudge you at all for that. I mean, I wish I was in your business. I'd have more money in my bank account as well, right? But I think all of us, I think we need to, I'm not trying to defend them so much, but it's not, their job is to do business and do development, right? The cat was out of the bag 4 or 5 years ago when the city or the city council allowed the other buildings that have already gone up, that are already on, maybe not to this magnitude of their design. That's not their fault, right? So I implore all of us, I don't know if there's people here from the city council, the city or whatever, but the city wants to make money. They want to generate revenue. They want to generate tax revenue so that they can provide more services. I think they probably stretched it a little bit too far. I think all of us wish that Sugar House was the way it was 5 or 6 years ago. There's already 6 or 7, buildings. Remember, we've all gone over this already, right? The businesses may or may not, be doing that well, right? So I think in general, it doesn't take, a Wharton MBA grad to know that, you want to make money, and everybody does, right? So I think it's, I think it looks like a great design and so forth, but nobody wants it that big for all the reasons that everybody's mentioned. But I think we all just have to, if we want to voice our complaints, I think it needs to go to city and the city council, and that's their job to either accept or deny or adjust the permit or however that's done.
Thank you. We're going to do one more question, and we'll have Sarah come up and talk about the process one more time.
Hi there, I'm Jesse. Wasn't going to speak, but I was told we need some more younger people to speak to and weigh in, so here I am. I spent a lot of time in China, in a very large city, and everything was a skyscraper. The housing, the businesses, everything was just super huge, and you could never see the horizon. You had to drive for hours to see the horizon. You usually never see the sun. Everything was blocked out. I realize this is one building, but like it's been said, it opens the door for more to come. Just before you know it, you can't see the beautiful mountains anymore. That's sad. This is actually my first community meeting. Excited to be here. I don't know if this is the right question to ask, but I'm just curious. Sounds like there's a lot of no's going on out there. How much does that weigh in? What does the process look like? Can everyone say no and it still goes through? What dictates whether it happens or not?
That's a good question. I mean, there's a process, and we like I said, want to bring our initial thoughts. We are going to obviously mold them and come back and maybe come back again and again after that, right? But to answer the question, at the end of the day, we don't make a decision. Planning Commission doesn't make a decision. Obviously, the council is voted upon to support the voice of their constituents. And so at the end of the day, it's those 7 folks that get to make calls on things that happen or that don't, and if they have to go back to the drawing board or if they have to be killed completely, it's those sorts of things. But obviously, within rights of zoning and things, there's a right to do something, right? For everyone involved. It's just, is there a process by which that can improve and get better, even if it does mean there's a little bit more density or a little more height in order to be able to deliver on some of the things that we, quite frankly, would love to be able to deliver. Thank you.
All right, sir, you want to come up?
This is Councilwoman Sarah Young, for those who arrived a little late.
So thank you all for being here tonight. It is really important that the community voice is not just a part of the process, but is clearly heard. And I hope you have the opportunity not just to listen to your neighbors, but also to consider how else to express your voice outside of this evening. So I'm just going to re-articulate one more time some opportunities that you have. So did you want to share the website, Derek, that I know Judy mentioned at the beginning?
If you go to the Sugar House Community Council's website and then go to the Planning Commission and Zoning heading, you'll be able to find a opinion sheet where you can fill that out and tell Judy what you think.
And for those of you who I know we heard from a few who are maybe newer to the community council setting, you should know that a letter from Judy Short holds a lot of weight, not just here within this community, but also with Salt Lake City as well. So that is one mechanism by which you can share your feedback. Additionally, the Planning Commission has an opportunity for you to share feedback directly with that entity as well. I will tell you that there's not a good way to share that feedback until the application is posted, but I do have those tentative application numbers to be able to share with you and help you in terms of making those communications. I am your city council representative, and so I have business cards. You can grab one of those to share more direct feedback with me. And then finally, there is a council comments that's available to you as well, and you are welcome to send comments through that mechanism. Those will come to me as well, but they go to the full council. And so there are multiple opportunities for your voice to be heard as a part of this process. Tonight is not the final night for that. And again, I just applaud every single person, not only who spoke tonight, but everybody who came and gave their time to hear what is happening and to be a part of the process. Because I will say this, knowing there are people online who are not from the Sugar House area, this is the community that I am proud to represent in terms of the voices and the engagement that we have here. So I just thank you all for being here and sharing your thoughts tonight.
Are you doing this at land use on Monday?
Are you talking?
No.
It'll be in January.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for being so respectful tonight.
There is no meeting Monday.
It's on something different. Not on this. Judy has a land use meeting on Monday, but they're talking
But
about
not on this.
not on this. Yeah.
It can't come on the agenda until we get
They get a planner and
This is pretty early in the
So it
process.
will be January 8th.
So thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for being respectful. I'd like to thank these guys for coming to show us and taking the fire. So thank you.
I know, that was good fun, actually. Plus, I got extra steps.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, everybody, the registers are open if you guys want to purchase anything.
Yeah, please shop. Hey, that's a good call.
I know, right?
What was you trying to say to me, Eric?
I was trying to say I had online questions.